Good evening, this is Nerds the Human, and welcome to this time-lapse of Medieval 2 Total War, where today, of course, we were looking at castle only, not a single city on the map. And it's been an interesting one, a total domination victory, official victory. Of course, they got themselves Jerusalem and their 50 settlements, but they pretty much knocked everyone out of the game. Obviously, they never went to the New World. I never showed that on the map. There was no need to. They never did make it there, but just the Pope living here on exile on the Chestnut Isle of Corsica. Lovely. Although the English are turned up. I did play an extra like 40 turns, 50 turns after Portugal died. Nothing really happened to the Pope, so I left it there. The Pope does indeed get to live in exile. But it was certainly an interesting campaign because obviously the castles, the Citadels, was going to make things a lot tougher for people to take cities out. And that's kind of what we saw because, well, I'll take you to an earlier stage. But basically, at the normal end of the game, no one had died yet. So, interesting. The Citadels definitely slowed things down a fair bit. But in the end, we did see an absolute victory. Taking it back to turn 200 then, and you'll see that England only just taken Paris. And from here, well, from here is really where things started to explode. The only early faction that looked like they might do that was Hungary, who absolutely took over this part of the world, destroyed the Byzantines, and even held Cairo for, I'd say, about 150 turns. It was a long, long time that they held that. But in the end, yes, the Timurids just kind of put a buffer on them, unfortunately. Mongols were also a bit of a problem for them. Bit of a shame because I would like to have seen an early faction take over because of their access to better troops. And indeed, well, whilst the Hungarians do get some very nice troops out of their castles, the main idea was that we often see Venice and the Papal States dominate, and they are very much factions that build their best units out of cities, and by putting only castles, I did wonder if we would manage to reduce and restrict them. Indeed, we did manage to do that by the looks of it, even if the Pope did get to live in the long run. Venice never really managed anything. Hungary, to some extent, their dominance managed to keep Venice in check. And, well, that was part of the experiment, really, to see if it would. And in many ways, it did. England doing well isn't exactly a shock. They do tend to be quite a strong faction. But taking over the whole map on a castle setting, I'm not sure I was expecting that. Although perhaps the fact that they had this island that can never be conquered. I say that. At this stage, Nottingham was conquered by the Danes. But yeah, perhaps its island status did kind of help it a little bit, gave it a nice platform to launch. Who knows? But certainly mission achieved in terms of Venice and the Papal States being held back. But in the end, absolute domination for England. Interesting that they never went to the New World, considering their domination over this, but I'd say that's a success. We'll definitely look at cities only, although I fear that will only make Venice and the Pope, and probably Milan as well, even more powerful. But of course, we need to try this the other way as well. Do make suggestions for your time lapses down below. I'd very much like to follow some of those ideas. And well, we'll certainly be planning one of these every month as we get the new schedule a bit more in action. I want to keep these going every so often, so definitely be seeing more of these in the future. But for now, I will leave you. I'm Thomas, this is the Nerds the Human, and this has been a Medieval 2 time lapse. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Have you heard the good news, my friends? Here's the good news! It's the Pope! Has the Pope ever done as badly as I'm doing as the Pope right now? God only knows. God only knows. Down goes the spoon of destiny. And there he goes! It took every last bolt we had.